we all know he's the reigning offensive player of the year. He's a special game-changing player for us. Now, just opening his window doesn't mean he has to play. You have 3 weeks then in which he can activate him. So, we'll play this by ear. We'll listen to Christian. We'll listen to the experts, and hopefully, very soon he's back playing with us on the field. And then we got to be judicious about how much we use him. And that's a hard thing to do because he's so darn good.
We got a little Tone Loc. I mean, you don't get a lot of Tone Loc in 2024. That was John Lynch there earlier on KNBR talking about Christian McCaffrey. Man, when the Niners made the trade for McCaffrey, you know what happened after that point? They went 10-1. 10-1. Absolutely amazing. So can John Lynch do it again and maybe make a significant addition before the Tuesday NFL trade deadline? Doesn't sound like they're going to make a big move, but I do kind of feel like they will make a move or two on the margins to get themselves a little bit better. With us on the UMA guest line, a man who's already appeared today for multiple hours on the Sports Leader, the great John Dickinson. JD, how are you?
I'm doing well, Larry. Good to be with you, as always. And, still kind of well-planned in terms of the schedule maker as far as the trade deadline coming during this week where the 49ers have their bye. So basically, instead of looking forward to a game on Sunday, you just spend the week looking forward to the trade deadline on Tuesday, and then it's ready for the next week and the game at Tampa Bay.
I'm looking at you. First of all, I moved to the side so we could share the screen. So we're both wearing black shirts. You have a black hat on though, and there's no. Is that an umpire's hat? There's no logo.
No, there's no logo on it. It's a melon. It's actually a melon hat. The brand, the Melon brand. It's a blue hat. It's a blue shirt. Also.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I thought it was black.
It's a dark.
Well, now that you turn
hat.
sideways, I can see it. Does look a little navy, huh?
I do have a black version of this hat. Just kind of goes with everything, Just kind of
there you go.
Throw a different color T-shirt on, whatever. Throw some jeans on. Just kind of goes with everything.
It's a sharp look. All right, what do you think? I mean, JD. It's the Niners make deals. Lynch makes deals. He picked up CMC, he picked up Charles Omenihu, Jimmy Garoppolo, Jordan Willis, Emmanuel Sanders. Last year alone, Chase Young, and then the Niners went 7-2 and went to the Super Bowl. Randy Gregory before Chase Young. They've even made a good deal when they sold. They traded Quan Alexander one year for a 5th-round draft choice in the following draft, and they got Demo Lenore with that pick. So Lynch has definitely made some good moves. Do you think he's going to make another one before Tuesday?
I do. I think the Niners do need to make a smaller move, and I think they need to do it on the defensive side. I heard some of the names you were talking about before I came on in the last segment. I would hone in on, if I'm the 49ers, defensive tackle or edge rusher. I think those are the two things. I know I've said it. We've talked about the fact that I'm of the belief that if you can get an edge rusher, it's probably the simplest one-stop shop as far as making your team better overall, right? You get another edge, you bookend that player with Nick Bosa, and all of a sudden you can get away with Fred Warner being your only quality linebacker, and you can get away with maybe the secondary not being quite as dominant, or the interior of the defensive line maybe not being quite as dominant. It just gives you a little more margin for error. That being said, I do think the greatest area of need, and I'm not going to be breaking any news to you because we've talked about it a lot for the last month, really longer than that, is interior defensive line. I think they need a run-plugging defensive tackle, somebody that can just clog some space and allow teams to not be so comfortable in believing, even a team like the Cowboys early in the game. Now, the Niners closed it up and made the Cowboys one-dimensional, and they grabbed the lead, and they ended up nearly blowing it late. But for the good chunk of that game in the second half, the 49ers had the Cowboys unable to run the ball after they had some success early. But to me, even the Cowboys were comfortable coming into that game with a game plan of, we're going to try to run the ball, and we think, even though we are among the league worst in running the ball, that we can do it on the Niners. And I think that mentality needs to be quashed, and the easy way to do it is to get yourself a defensive tackle that can help slow it down on the inside.
That I could see that. And the guy that I could see them getting is Sebastian Joseph Day, just because he's in Tennessee. He's having a pretty good year. He was here last year. I don't think it would cost very much. Maybe move around, maybe a pick swap, late day 3 pick swap. Rand Carthon is buddies with Lynch. Sebastian Joseph Day's a free agent at the end of the year. So I think his name.
So he's still relative. I thought he was a little older than that, but yeah, only 29. So I think he's still got, something in the tank.
He could make sense. He could make sense for them. I will say, I do agree with you. I think it's on the defensive side where I'd want to make additions. Unless McCaffrey was out for the year, then I might look for another running back. I think I would probably want to try to see if I could get it done with Pearsall and Cowing as opposed to looking for a receiver. But the defense I want to kind of hammer down on, because the Niners against Dallas, JD, only missed 4 tackles. I thought Campbell easily played the best game I've seen that he's played since he's been a Niner. But if you go back to weeks 4, 5, and 6, the 49ers averaged 14 missed tackles per game in that 3-game stretch, and they missed 17 tackles against the Patriots in week 4. They've had 5 games this year where they've missed 9 tackles or more. But I guess, if Campbell can improve, if Winters can be healthy, if Greenlaw can work his way back sooner rather than later, maybe they can get away without an additional linebacker. What do you think?
Yeah, it does seem like there is some light at the end of the tunnel with Greenlaw. Here we are, and I agree with you. I still think it's about a month away. I think we're looking at more like December 1st or even maybe December 8th against the Bears, where he could have the potential to try and come back. But I do think because it looks like he will be able to come back, you can get away with having Fred Warner and having Winters. And Devondre Campbell was really good in the game against the Cowboys, and he was a big part of those missed tackles, though, in the earlier part of the season. And we've talked about it a lot, the fact that opposing offensive coordinators really look to go at him. 59 and 22 to me were the two guys. Yadam and Campbell were the two guys that teams would really go after among the 49ers defenders. They'd look to go up top. They'd look to go at George Odom, too, when Odom was in there at safety before Malik Mustafa ended up out there with Jair Brown. So I think they've shored up a little bit of that with Mustafa's play. But I'm with you. I would have said early in the year, if the outlook wasn't great for Dre Greenlaw's ability to return, that you probably have to go get a linebacker, because I don't think you have consistent NFL standard other than Fred Warner, who's obviously a future Hall of Famer. And so I think you'd have to look to go add there. I think with Renardo Green's ability to perform in the secondary, Mustafa's ability to step in and quell some of the early season issues, I would not be looking to move Charvarius Ward. Obviously, the tragic news with Charvarius Ward and his
just
daughter,
terrible.
and just absolutely tragic. Yeah. I wouldn't be looking to move Ward. Maybe he ends up elsewhere. Obviously, in the offseason, Lenore's been terrific. Renardo Green has had an added role. So I think they've got enough in the secondary to where I wouldn't look to think that you need to go add somebody in terms of a corner or a safety. But I do think on the interior of the defensive line, that's where you got to go.
What about my other two names that I threw out? Jadeveon Clowney. Clowney's been everywhere, but he's having another good year. He's a beast. He can rush off the edge. You can move him around. He's with Carolina. They're going nowhere. I think you could probably get him for a song, and he's playing well. And then the other name I threw out was Tyreek Hill. Now, I know that he's got a high price tag, and Lynch is like, hey, it's got to make sense financially. But, the 49ers next year may not have Debo or Ayuk. And that they may really need a dynamic wide receiver. I don't think they could afford Tyreek, but my sources in Miami, and I've had a couple people who cover that team who said, you think the Niners would have any interest, because I think the Dolphins are going to move Tyreek before Tuesday. And I'm like, really? Wow. They're going to move Tyreek Hill before Tuesday? And the people that I've talked to in Miami say that absolutely is going to happen, which makes me go, wow, there are very few guys, JD, that I would kind of blow up my whole, structure for. But he might be on that list. He's that good, and he's I kind of feel like he might be at this point the kind of piece that might get the Niners over the top. I mean, what do you think of Tyreek? Are you a Hill fan?
Yeah, I like him. I think the price is probably going to be too steep for the 49ers. Yeah. And I think that would just be an absolute stunner if the Dolphins look to move off of him, and he really could be the kind of player that puts somebody over the top, especially if it's a team that already maybe has aspirations of winning it, getting to a Super Bowl or making a deep playoff run. I just don't know how it would look. I mean, if you're the Niners, I mean, are you giving up a first-round pick, multiple first-round picks or a first and a second to get Tyreek Hill? Like, I don't think you're getting Tyreek Hill cheap, and probably you got to take on the contract in addition to all of that. And so I don't know. I don't feel like that's necessarily the fit, but it is interesting when you look at the fact that Debo probably won't be around and Ayuk is probably going to be down for a good chunk of next season, given the timeline and the significance of the injury that he had. As far as your other name, I do like Jadeveon Clowney. I mean, he hasn't done a whole lot in just kind of looking at his game log for this year. 1 sack. I'm looking at he's got just a handful of tackles I think on the season. I think he's got 9 tackles on the season in 6 games. But no, he's somebody that I think if you could get him for nothing, he could factor in there. The other name I like again on the interior, and it's not to me it's DJ Jones. I think DJ Jones is a system fit. He's a big run plugger. He can cave in the interior of an offensive line and get to the quarterback some. He knows
they're
the 49ers system.
That's the only thing is they're 5-3. I don't know if they're gonna. I think Denver may not sell.
They might not. No, they might not. But I think we have seen the 49ers and the Broncos able to make deals in the past.
Yeah.
I know it's a different regime there in Denver now, but I don't know. I think that could be the kind of guy that would be a fit. I don't think DeForest Buckner. I mean, I know they're 4-4 in Indy. I don't think DeForest Buckner's somebody that the Colts would look to trade. But I don't know.
He's
I think
too
DJ
good.
DJ Jones is the kind of guy that I think could be had, even with a team that fancies themselves in it. And I really think he would be the perfect fit. He is the perfect fit in terms of player you wouldn't necessarily have to give up a ton for, that would be productive. And then you figure it out in the offseason how to improve moving forward at that spot. I'm a big DJ Jones guy when he was
me too, man.
With the 49ers.
I love
he
DJ.
Just made plays. Just made plays and was steady. And just to me, they need a 300-plus pound guy, just active in the middle, wreaking havoc and plugging up the run.
I love the rookie Evan Anderson, but yeah, if you could get DJ, I mean, go do it. Plus, he makes his own barbecue sauce, and he sometimes keeps some of it in his locker. And you might be able to do an interview and get a bottle of barbecue sauce. I mean, that's
love that.
That's the twofer. The twofer. I call that the twofer. One last one before we let you go. Seifert, Shanahan, Holmgren, all Hall of Fame semifinalists as part of this new Blue Ribbon Coach Committee. There's going to be one finalist between those 3, plus Bill Arnsparger, Tom Coughlin, Chuck Knox, Dan Reeves, Marty Schottenheimer, Clark Shaughnessy. I'm giving my vote to Seifert. 5 rings. He's one of the great special teams coaches, or great defensive backfield coaches of all time. I know people mark him down because he didn't win in Carolina, but 5 rings, 5. The guy's he was a tremendous defensive coach. I'd give him the slight edge over Shanahan and Holmgren. Holmgren and Shanahan both have 2 Super Bowl rings as head coaches. He only has 1 as a head coach, but he's got 5 overall. All right, I guess he's got 2.
He's got 2.
Yeah, that's right. He's got 89 and 94. So they all 3 have 2. That's right. But I'm giving my vote to Seifert.
Yeah, I think that is a really, really, really close race. If I had to give it to one, off the top, I think the case against Seifert, the case for Seifert, is the fact that he was an elite defensive coordinator on championship teams before he became the head coach when Bill Walsh retired, and then won 2 more Super Bowls. But I think the way he gets cast is that, he took it over and, hey, don't screw it up. Whereas Holmgren and Shanahan built, things. Shanahan built the Denver squad, with Elway and Terrell Davis and some of the receivers that they had. Obviously, Elway was already there, but he got Elway over the hump when Elway hadn't been able to get over the hump because they got Terrell Davis and the defense was quality, and there was more balance, right? It wasn't just all Elway in the shotgun, trying to throw his way to Super Bowls as it had been pre-Shanahan. But I think Holmgren, you can make the case, and Holmgren only ended up with the one Super Bowl win, right? He had the one win with Green Bay, and then he got
2 as an assistant,
Shanahan.
1 as a head coach, yeah.
And then he got beat by Shanahan in the first one that Shanahan won with the Broncos. So they went head-to-head there. I think the case for Holmgren is the fact that he won, although didn't win a Super Bowl, but he turned the entire Seattle program around in the early to mid-2000s and got them to a Super Bowl. So he won with Favre and turned that. Like, he really turned 2 programs around with some longevity, whereas Shanahan basically only had the Broncos run, but he won the two Super Bowls. So I think I would probably lean Holmgren if I had to pick one. But man, it is close, and there are cases to be made for everybody. But I think Holmgren, also as a GM too, like he was the guy in charge in Seattle of kind of, he got the whole package to kind of build the thing the way he wanted to there. So I think I'm going to lean Holmgren over Mike Shanahan and over Seifert.
I wish we had Steve Young here and Steve would tell us who he would vote for, because I'd love to know. Wouldn't you? Wouldn't you love to know who he would pick between Shanahan and Holmgren? He's not taking Seifert. He's either going Holmgren, who coached him, at BYU, I believe, and with the Niners, and then you got Mike Shanahan, who got the best out of Steve in '94. He goes just off loyalty to '94 with Shanahan.
I just don't think you can go wrong. Like I really don't think there's a wrong answer. I mean, I'll give you my pick, but I really had to think about that one between. I do think Seifert off in a different category, but I had to really think about it between Mike Shanahan and Mike Holmgren.
Hey, if we had time, we'd be talking Zach Manasian and Lindy Waters and all kinds of things, JD, but we'll cut it right here because Kerry's on deck. But thanks for jumping in, man. Always great to rap with you. Probably the easiest guy to talk to there is. So thanks again.
Oh, appreciate it, Larry. Thanks, man.